You shouldn't be having sex if you can't ace the secondary school sex ed quiz. If you don't get 100% on this quiz, you are banned from sex. 100%. If you have been here for a single video I've ever made, you probably know I am a big proponent of improving sex education in schools. Today, we're going through a sex ed quiz to see if my sex education as a gynecologist meets the standard. See if you can get more of them correct than I do. I'm going to be really embarrassed if I can't answer these questions. I don't even know what secondary school is, like what ages this would be. Secondary school in the UK. Yes, I see the loop of hair on my head. It is bothering me also. I'm sorry. It seems like year 7 and 8 would be like 12-year-olds. Which of these STIs are you more susceptible to if you shave off your pubic hair? Pubic lice is definitely not the answer to this one. Pubic lice lives in the hair of the pubic area, and shaving off your pubic hair means that there's no place for the lice to live. This is similar to like getting lice in your hair on your head. If people are bald, they usually don't get lice. So that's definitely not the answer. Chlamydia. I wouldn't think this is the answer because chlamydia does not live generally for long periods of time on the skin itself. And then genital warts. So I'm gonna guess that it's this one. And I've never really seen anything that lined out that HPV type 6 and 11, which are the main causes of genital warts, is more likely to be transmitted if you are shaving your pubic hair. But that's just the only answer that makes sense here. So let's go with genital warts. We got it right. I'm not sure the validity of that statement. I think I've seen some literature that says there's an association between people who shave their pubic hair and having an HPV infection, but that doesn't mean a cause-effect relationship. Does that make sense? Next question. Can you catch an STI if you have oral sex? The answer to this one is absolutely yes. Let's see if I get it right. We are correct. Oral sex can transmit many STIs. Gonorrhea and chlamydia, which both can happen in the throat. So usually they're asymptomatic if that happens, but they cause sore throat in that way. You can transmit herpes through oral sex, obviously, because herpes is a mouth and genital disease. You can even transmit HIV or other things like syphilis through oral sex. So I think this is a really common misunderstanding. People don't know that you can transmit STIs through oral to genital sex, and that's really important. So this is why dental dams are important. Yes, you can use a condom, and those are really great to help decrease the risk of transmitting an STI if you're having unprotected oral sex with somebody that you don't know their status. That's not a great idea. Please protect yourself from oral STI. I promise you don't want any part of that. Okay, next question. Put these in order of development. Embryo, fetus, zygote. Currently in the order that is listed on the question, it is reverse. Zygote is a very tiny, when you go from like a 2-cell to 8-cell organism, that's usually in the process of moving through the fallopian tube, and then it implants, becomes an embryo, and then eventually after about week 9 or so, we consider it a fetus. So I'm gonna go with zygote, embryo, fetus. Correct. We got it right. Excellent. Okay. Which part of the female anatomy is this? For one, this drawing is a little bit hard to decipher because I believe this is pointing at labia minora and majora. It's kind of like the line there. It's hard to tell what it's pointing at, but I think maybe it's pointing at labia minora. Up top is the clitoral hood, which is honestly not very well drawn. And then the urethra just below that, and then the vaginal introitus, which is the opening to the vagina. The outside here is labia minora, and then the skin-covered section is labia majora. So we're going to go with labia minora for this one. We got it right. We're on a roll. They're gonna give me permission to have sex, which is excellent since I have 4 children. What is the maximum time that sperm can survive inside a female reproductive system? Okay, you all should know this if you've watched me for any period of time because we have talked about this many times before. Sperm are like cockroaches. They do not die. They can live inside the uterus, cervix, vagina, fallopian tubes for 7 days. And this is super important because people seem to think that they're only able to get pregnant if they have sex while they're ovulating, and that's not entirely true. Sperm can live up to a week in some cases inside the reproductive tract. So if it's there and you ovulate, you can still get pregnant. So we're gonna go with 7 days. Yes, on a roll. How Oh, there's 12 questions. Okay. What is stealthing? Okay, I'm going to be really honest. I had no idea what this was until I saw it on TikTok recently, but now I do know what it is. And for the record, it is assault. So this is the process of taking a condom off mid-sex and not getting consent from your partner to have unprotected intercourse. So this is sexual assault. If you are using a condom and you don't ask your partner permission to have sex without a condom, that's not okay, but that's what stealthing is. What type of contraception is put inside the uterus? Contraceptive ring, no, that goes inside the vagina. IUD, intrauterine device, obviously this is the answer. Implant, I mean, technically an IUD is kind of an implant, but they're talking about the arm implant, so we're gonna go with IUD. Awesome. True or false? Having chlamydia can make you become infertile. So, I'm going to answer true because I think I know what they're getting at, but this is not technically all the way true. Okay, yeah, so that was the answer. Chlamydia most commonly causes something called cervicitis, which is an infection at the cervix here. And cervicitis, in about 20% of cases, if left untreated, can move up through the uterus and into the fallopian tubes. This is called pelvic inflammatory disease. Pelvic inflammatory disease definitely increases the risk of infertility because it concentrates in the tube and causes scarring, which makes it harder for an ovulation that happens here, which is eventually fertilized, to make its way back to the uterus and implant. So chlamydia itself is not a huge risk factor for infertility, assuming that it is treated prior to becoming a bigger infection in the pelvis. And that's the problem, is that a lot of people don't get screened and they're not treated until they have symptoms. And a lot of time, chlamydia won't have symptoms until it's become a worse infection. Get screened. If you're having sex and you don't know the status of the partner that you had sex with, get screened. Get screened even if you think you know it. Just get yourself checked out and prevent any of these long-term complications. It's also associated with an increased risk of having pelvic pain down the line as well. So it's not just infertility. If you don't care about having a baby someday, that's totally fine. You still should protect your reproductive health and reduce your risk of getting chronic pelvic pain. So PID, pelvic inflammatory disease, attacks the tubes and does increase the risk of infertility. And that's a compounding risk. So the more times somebody has PID, the more at risk they are of eventually having an infertility issue. What percentage of women usually experience orgasms during intercourse? This is a difficult one. Now, it's a little hard because there's some, what are we considering intercourse, right? So if this is like vaginal intercourse, or are we including foreplay in that discussion? I'm not sure, but it is a well-known fact that a lot of people who have a clitoris are not going to get an orgasm from just penis and vagina intercourse. That's typically not the most efficient or friendly way to help somebody orgasm in this scenario. So I'm going to go with 40%, although I don't actually know what the percentage is. I just know it's low. It's either 40 or 60. And again, I'm not sure where they're getting these numbers, and I would guess that the studies probably vary pretty widely in what they report depending on how they were done and where they were done, but we're gonna guess 40. It's 60. Well, what you should know is that a lot of people do not get orgasm from penis and vagina intercourse, and you should please your partner in other ways. And if you are the partner we are discussing, then you should be aware that this is the case and reach out to them for ways to improve their pleasure, because this is a mutual experience, correct? Correct. That should be on this quiz. Scientifically, what is the male G-spot called? The anal canal. I don't think it's that. The prostate. Yes, I think it's that one. The gooch. Can you imagine if I said, actually, the scientific term for the male G-spot is the gooch? No, it's not the gooch. The rectum. Also not correct. So we're going to go with the prostate. And we are correct. Yay, round of applause. If HIV is undetectable, is it untransmittable? So the answer to this one is definitely yes, but let me explain what they're asking. So when you have HIV, you can be treated with medications that are antiretrovirals. When you are on those medications, you can get a test called a viral load. And this measures how much virus is present and active in the system. If that is undetectable, then transmitting HIV is virtually impossible. So we use this clinically for partners who are discordant. And when I say discordant, I mean one has an HIV known infection and the other is HIV negative. And that's an important number so that you can kind of weigh the risk and talk to them about if they need to be on a preventative medicine as the partner of somebody who is HIV positive. For pregnancy, we use this for people who have had an HIV infection in the past that they are treating, and we are trying to decide the safety of and manner of delivery. So an undetectable viral load makes it safe to proceed with a normal vaginal delivery. Higher viral loads might make us want to go ahead and recommend a C-section due to a lower risk of transmission to the neonate. So where you at? Yes. I kind of minced my words there. We're gonna go with yes. In England, Scotland, and Wales, what is the latest time into pregnancy that you can have an abortion? Ooh. I honestly don't have any knowledge of abortion laws in England, Scotland, or Wales, but because I know that most of those places tend to be far more lax than the United States, and because this is a common cutoff, I'm going to make a guess of 23 weeks. We got it! Good guessing skills. Calculating results. 11 out of 12. You can have a little sex as a treat. Okay, great. Okay, so you didn't get 100%, but you were pretty close. You're allowed some sex. Maybe brush up on your facts first, just in case. Honestly, I'm offended. I believe I have provided a lot of very useful facts in this discussion, and I will not accept this. Okay, that was really interesting. I hope that you learned something today. If you're new here and you'd like to subscribe, we would love to have you. If you got more correct than me, brag down in the comments below, and if you didn't, tell me what you missed and why. Hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications so you never miss an upload. I'll see you next Monday.